Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Wouldn't you just know it? Honestly, wouldn't this just happen this way? Brain cells come and brain cells go. But fat cells live forever. Doggone it. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning, morning, morning. It started off to be one of those mornings. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch. And our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And let's not forget one of our great advertisers, too, that we want to mention, like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, locally owned and operated. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. And I want to see if she agrees with me. You have days and you have mornings where the minute you get out of bed, everything is going to go wrong.
Yeah, I've had many of those days. Many.
Today has been, and there's some words I'd like to use, but not particularly shined on by the FCC. Today has been one of those days where everything I've touched has turned to icky poo.
Yes, yes. And you know, when you have those days, just breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah, and wax on, wax off. Do we have a pledger?
Yes, we have Rotten on for the press.
Very good.
It's from Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. Good to hear from you this morning. Good morning, Rotten. Go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, my, you did a nice job on that, my friend. Thank you for calling in like you usually do.
I got 2 things for you.
Yes.
Number 1, you said you had some of them 10 commandments to put in the window.
Yes.
Remind you, you'd bring them to the lunch punch.
Is your phone, are you on a cell phone, Rotten? I'm having an awful hard time. Hold it really, really still. Don't move, whatever you do. It's really cracking. I will try to remember to bring some Thursday, I promise.
And did you get any onions?
No, I didn't, but I've got it written down on my desk that Dr. Dal said onions are the best.
Okay.
All right. God bless you, man. Thanks. Oh, by the way, Lunch Bunch on Thursday. Don't forget Lunch Bunch on Thursday. Here's Michael Rogers now. The weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Wonderful, wonderful people. Don't forget. Here's a tip for you. Use the cantaloupe rule. What's the cantaloupe rule? If you have a small space to decorate, use items that are the size of a cantaloupe or bigger. Too many small items actually clutter up a space and make it feel smaller. There you go. When it comes to decorating, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. The number to call, 678-6945. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
How lucky you are. The weather to the east of you is so yucky that you're going to have yourself a nice day. Yeah, we had an 86 toward Pocatello, anywhere east in Idaho. Going up into Yellowstone, northern Montana, look out, it's a mess over there. You got a pretty nice day. The only difference between their weather and your weather is that they got precip on the ground in the form of snow. You're going to get cooler temperatures, and this is going to continue through all the way through the weekend. Still, What do we have for today? Partly sunny, 32 for the high. How about that? Very little wind, 5 miles an hour to be exact. 21 for the overnight low, be mostly sunny tomorrow, which means tomorrow's going to be a better day than today, but we're not at tomorrow yet, so we're going to stay into today. With the same temperatures. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Great weather forecast, Michael Rogers, weather.com. Thank you. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. Hey, by the way, don't forget Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, 678-9411. The number to call, Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, all of those folks working for you. This is the sale that works for you. 10 a.m. every Thursday, and they're going to have a ripping good sale this week on Thursday at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. Don't you miss it. 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. I just want to give you some information real quick. I just got off the phone prior to calling Gina this morning with a very nice gentleman at the Idaho Department of Transportation, Dennis, and I told him that I would really appreciate some information about the double yellow line rule or law in regards to making a left turn on it. Now, I, since yesterday, have had so many calls, and I've had so many people say, hey, wait a minute, there is no way in the world that could be in effect, because look at the road, like the road I live on, Highway 30, absolutely, you would have to drive at least 10 miles out of your way to come back around in a square and make a legal turn into my driveway and most of my neighbors. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And they're going to check on this. And they're going to call possibly sometime during this first hour, and we're going to put them on the air with Idaho Department of Transportation. By the way, some great folks in Burley, and I mean that when it comes to cleaning your clothes, and that's Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and that's Kevin and Cindy and the whole crew, and boy, they also, if you've got an item that's kind of old and antiquish, and you know, it's all messed up and everything, and you're saying to yourself, gee, I'd like to get it dry cleaned, but should I? You take it in there, and they're really, really good at the restoration of items. Absolutely, because, you know, dry cleaning actually prolongs the life of a garment. Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see Kevin and Cindy today. They are the best. And when you talk about the best, I have to take a little time right now and also talk about SafeLink Internet, and the number 677-8000. Say no to the winter blues with high-speed internet and get the very best. And that's SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet. 17 years and counting. They are the best. We've had them here in this house for what, 5-6 years? Excellent service. Appreciate them. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. Like I said, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't know how many of you happened to see the news clip from last week when Secretary of State John Kerry was over in France, in Paris, and he brought along with him, and you couldn't make this up. It's so absolutely ridiculous, you couldn't make it up. He brought along with him on that kind of an apology day to France for not being with the Solidarity Parade. He brought along with him aged, old, decrepit James Taylor, the singer. Yeah. And put him up on a podium. I got to ask Gina if she saw this. This will drive her nuts.
No, I didn't.
Oh, honestly, Gina, you and I agree on a lot of things, and I think you're going to find this kind of offensive and stupid. John Kerry goes up to the podium and introduces singer James Taylor. And James Taylor takes all the verses of his song, You've Got a Friend, and that was the apology to the French government.
What?
I am not kidding you. That was the apology to the French government because John Kerry or Eric Holder or even Obama himself did not take the time and effort, and they said, oops, after it was all over, that they weren't in that solidarity parade. And so they put James Taylor up on a podium with a guitar, and he's all hunched over and he can't look at the audience because he's got a real stiff neck, and he sings down into a microphone, "You've Got a Friend," and everybody applauded, and that was the apology to the French government.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, look it up on the internet. It's all over.
I just did.
Yes. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. And why can't they put the apology in their own words instead of it? I mean, kudos to James Taylor for being a big enough man to get this done and to go and do that at the request of the government. But really, you have to stoop that low as to bring an entertainer to sing an apology to the French government.
Yeah,
you can't pen the words yourself.
It blows my mind. If this is our foreign policy, that we're going to bring in a folk and country singer, James Taylor, to sing a song, "You've Got a Friend," as an apology for a complete goof. I just sat there and I thought, how amateur is this the administration?
They're very amateur.
And he stood there, Kerry stood there at the podium with one arm leaning on the podium through all the verses of "You've Got a Friend," and this is how roughly it was put together. A woman, if you're looking at it, had to hold the microphone so James Taylor could be heard.
I could see that in the picture that they took, because he's hunched over a microphone and he's got to hold a secondary microphone so people can hear him. Mm-hmm.
And that was our apology to France.
Aren't we classy?
I would say. Thank you. I'm glad you looked that up, because people won't believe it. If they didn't see it firsthand, you won't believe it. It's a real Elmer Fudd-ish approach to trying to say you goofed. Anyhow, don't forget Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Sean and Mandy, they've got everything over there, and they're busy every day. I mean, right now they've got all your warm coals, for all the warm clothing needs, the jackets and the gloves and the caps and everything else. Oh, and then upstairs they've got that great fishing department, and you go in there and ask for a 10% off fishing card. That's right, that you can use for the rest of the year on all your fishing equipment needs. Yes! Get in there! Valley White Home and Ranch. These folks are really, really good. They've got everything you're looking for the farm, the home, and the ranch. Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Really nice people. Yep, and when you say nice people, that leads me right up to Ramsey Heating and Electric. And I've been very, very blessed to have the cream of the crop of all the advertisers in this area on this program. And this is, of course, a company that has been with me on this show ever since the very beginning. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30. And they've got all the quality, underline the word, quality air filters for your furnace to make sure that furnace is going to put out the warm heat to keep your toesies warm. It's going to get chilly the next couple of days, too. Don't forget, stop in and get those air filters at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. I don't know why it is, and we have talked about this on numerous occasions on this program, but why do actors, directors, producers in Hollywood think they are so intelligent? But when they open their mouth, they absolutely show you they're not. Michael Moore, good example. Michael Moore is a very, very heavy, very underworked, overpaid individual. And he has made some of the most embarrassing comments from his mouth in Hollywood. And now he is out attacking the movie about Chris Kyle, the American Sniper. Now, by all accounts, and if anyone in my audience has seen the movie firsthand, I want you to call me right now, 436-2244. I have not had a chance to go see the movie. I have talked to many, many people around the United States that have, and they told me, quote, don't miss it at the theater. Get the full effect. And I have not heard one negative comment about this movie directed by Clint Eastwood, American Sniper. But Mr. Michael Moore has come out and called Chris Kyle and others like him in our military cowards. I don't know, folks. I've just reached a point where this liberal left in our country, you almost have to, almost is the key word, have to feel sorry for their lack of intelligence and their BB gun brain overrunning their shotgun mouth. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I have had a chance to see that movie, and I'll tell you, it is fantastic.
I don't want you to give away anything that would hurry, or I should say, bother or cause concern about people with the ending, but I do want you to elaborate. I have heard, here's what I've heard, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. The directing of the movie is absolutely excellent. The acting by, I forgot the actor's name that played Chris Kyle all of a sudden. I forgot his name, excuse me. But they said he was astonishing.
Yes. It's 2 hours of just, you're sitting on your edge of your seat and going, wow, these people actually have to go through this.
Yeah. What are your, after seeing the movie, Doug, answer this first and foremost. What are your thoughts? What did you walk out of the theater thinking about the movie and also Chris Kyle's life and what his service meant to America? There had to be a feeling.
Yes, the feeling was his wife is one strong person and really loved that man. And Chris Kyle loved his wife, but he really loved the country. And he really loved the people he served with.
All right, now take that from what you just said and the feeling you had walking out of that theater and explain to me how someone like Michael Moore, that little corpuscle that causes so much trouble, how he could come out and call someone like our American military hero Chris Kyle a coward.
Well, he must have been looking in the mirror when he come up with that one, because that's the only way. He's the only coward out there.
Yeah.
Michael Moore is. Chris Kyle was a man that I would be proud to call my son. I'd be proud to call my brother. I'd be very proud to call him my friend. And I would stand toe to toe with Chris, or side by side, I meant, and because he was. He's a hero. He really is.
I agree.
And what you'll get coming out of that movie, if you don't come out of that movie feeling better about America, feeling better about what America has done in this world, then you ought to reevaluate how you feel about America and go someplace where you will feel happy about the country you live in.
I appreciate your call on this. I definitely want to go see this movie. I have not had the opportunity. I do not like to go, and I mean this, I don't like to go into theaters a lot of times and watch movies because I think some people are very rude and they're talking and they're giggling and laughing, and it takes away from the movie that I've paid for to see. But in this case, I want to see it in the big screen venue. I want to see that movie.
And I'm going to go again.
Are you?
I definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. And to all the liberals that are trying to condemn our military, like Seth Rogen and Michael Moore, I don't even have anything to say except I pity these people. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by, please. Barry Equipment and Rental. Don't forget they've got 3 locations serving you, and you know what they are. Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and that big, new, beautiful location, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have the equipment to do any job right. That's exactly what they do. They've got retail equipment sales, equipment rentals, parts and service. 3 locations, as I said, right now 0% financing and great lease options. Eli, Nick, and the whole crew at Barry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Don't forget, too, Denny's Restaurant. We're going to be over there Thursday at 11:30 for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And we also want to say thank you to Walmart and Smith's and Hanson Mortuary for all the cards we're going to give away, the gift cards. Well, the meals are great. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Please be there at 11:30 this Thursday for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Going to be absolutely fantastic. Always is. Super nice people, great food, Denny's Restaurant. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, you've got to go see it.
What's that?
You have got to go see it.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me a little bit more. Don't just leave me hanging.
For anyone who has ever been in the service and being married to a spouse at home in a combat situation, it puts the pressure on the wife or the spouse much more than you realize. When we left there, it was the quietest I've ever heard it going out. Because at the end it showed it his funeral.
Yeah. No, Doc, don't do that. Do not talk to me about how the movie ends or anything else. Don't do that to the people,
well,
please.
You know he's dead. So
I know, but don't do that. I don't want to go into the movie itself. Feelings are one thing, but talking about the movie's another.
Okay.
All right.
It was a tremendous movie, but there was a lot of filthy language in it. But in the service, you get a lot of that.
I understand. And so you would give it on a
PTSD.
All right, on a 1 to 10 scale, what would you rank that movie?
Probably, if they take the language out, it'd be 11, but with the language, probably a 9.
Okay. I appreciate it, Doc. God bless you, man. Thanks for your call. That means a lot. I know you've served this country. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. I want to go see it. I just have to go see that movie. That's on my list right now of things that I have to do. Caller, go ahead quickly, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. The American people really is spoiled. What's going on overseas is not happening here because we have guys like that sniper over there and a lot of our other servicemen keeping those kind of things from coming to America.
I agree. But for these liberal loons, whether it's Hollywood actors or whether it's directors like Michael Moore and people like Seth Rogen, they seem to get all the press, they seem to get all the accolades, and they seem to have a hero-worshipping fan club, but I look at them as degenerates that absolutely should keep their mouth shut.
Well, what's going to happen when these training camps, these Marxist training camps, are going to start loosening up their people? And all these terrorists are going to be pouring out of the woodwork to start doing damage in this country. I wonder how they're going to feel about it. It's going to happen.
I agree. Tony, it's always good to hear from you, and I'm trying to do two things at once. I just got some news press releases over the air, and I got some other things I've got to get to during the break. But God bless you. I do appreciate you, Tony and Mary. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay,
appreciate it. I was just handed something that I'm checking on by my lovely wife, and President Obama, as you know, is coming to Idaho after the State of the Union speech tonight, and he's going to be speaking at Boise State University. And I've got a press release that just was handed to me, and I'm going to read that during this small break coming up in just a moment. And that break is provided by Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. And don't forget, new steel, all the angle iron, flat iron, tubing, channel iron, they've got it all, along with all your trailer parts. They've got employee-owned company that is protecting our resources. They are really nice people. Adam and Josh and the whole crew at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Efforts by the Obama administration to ease trade and travel restrictions to Cuba are a welcome first step to normalizing trade for U.S. ag organizations, which are renewing their own efforts to lift the 54-year embargo on Cuba. Direct commercial exports to Cuba of U.S. food products and ag commodities on a cash advance basis were reauthorized by Congress in the Trade Sanctions Reform and Export Enhancement Act of 2000. The Ag Coalition for Cuba sees greater potential for U.S. ag exports to Cuba if the embargo is lifted and financial credit is allowed. Cuba imports 80% of its food, about $2 billion annually, and much of the country's food needs could come from the U.S., the coalition says. This is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
I am going to do something right now that we don't often do, just because of the spur of the moment. Sometimes it causes problems. Gina, would you do me a big favor all of a sudden this morning?
What's up?
I just received an email, and I'm going to have you, if you would, call 678-0459 and ask to get Rita on the phone with me. That's Rita Ramsey. If you do that, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll do a couple of commercials real quick. How would that be?
678-0459?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I want to get her on the air and talk to her for a moment. By the way, while I'm waiting for Rita on the phone, I'm going to have Scout's Car Quest and Jeff and the rest of the crew. Jeff Poole has been over there for over 20 years, and I'll tell you what, he's such a great guy. Every detail matters at Scout's Car Quest Centers, and they've got 3 locations to serve you: 518 Overland in Burley, 323 East 8th and Highway 25 in Rupert, and exit 211 I-84 for their big truck depot helping you. And I'll tell you, they've got all your cold weather needs, whether it's the antifreeze or the gas and diesel supplements and everything else. And, of course, don't forget, now's a great time to have all those custom filter surveys done. You know about that. You get into Scows today. Every detail matters. They really care at Scows Car Quest Centers, and 3 locations serving you. Thank you, Scows. Let's see if we've got her on the air. Rita, are you there?
I am.
Rita, we had the opportunity on Saturday evening to go out to dinner together, and you and Glenn are such wonderful people, but when the conversation came up the other night, as you well remember, about why Obama is coming to Idaho, I made the statement that of the people I talked to back on the East Coast and others, there was a feeling that this was going to have something to do with the monument status of the Boulder White Clouds. What is this email all about, and what do you think is going to happen tomorrow with Obama at Boise State?
Well, you know, it doesn't really say anything is permanent about it, but it kind of looks like that they have been clamoring for him to come so that they could show their support and get him to do it, and that's their way of saying, hey, we've got to get this done because there's opposition in Idaho, and if we don't speak right now, maybe it won't get done.
Well, you know, what's really bothering me, Rita, and nobody stays up on politics the way you do, I have right here also another email that was sent to me. As a matter of fact, it came in at 11:07 p.m. last evening. And both parties of the Democrats and the Republicans have not a clue as to what Obama is coming to Idaho for. Have you, if anybody, I mean, you'd hear from scuttlebutt that's going around the area, have you heard any reason as to why he chose Boise State University the day after the State of the Union?
Well, my only question would be, I mean, this would have been the Idaho White Cloud thing would have been my my first thing is this is what it would have to be, because he has literally just distanced himself from Idaho totally. However, they brought up a good point. I think it was Representative Wood brought up the point that the community college in Boise has absolutely skyrocketed with students. And maybe because it has skyrocketed, that's why he's going to come there to make the announcement that we're going to give everybody 2 years of free community college because you deserve it. And so I guess there's that possibility. I still think it has something to do with this White Clouds thing.
I do too. Initially, that's what I said the other night. My feelings are from the people I've talked to back east that they believe it's going to be the naming of the monument status, which I think is absolutely harmful to the entire state of Idaho. And, of course, now, Rita, let's be fair. It could be a multiplicity of things that basically are going to really support liberalism.
Well, I guess there's that possibility. You know, I reminded somebody yesterday, I had a customer in here, and we were talking, and he says, that Obama just makes me so mad. And you could just tell with the fire in his eyes that he was really irritated about it. And he says, I just don't understand why he would even want to come to Idaho and everything. And I said, well, there were 35% of Idahoans voted for Obama. Mm-hmm. And so he has gathered up some support here. But I still think this has to do with the White Clouds thing. Yeah. And I think that it's anything that he can do to slam Idaho, because we are not a Democrat state. We're more Republican. And the other thing is that anybody who thinks that this is a good deal for Idaho is delusional, because all they will do is totally close it off, expect us to make sure that it doesn't burn down, and we won't get reimbursed from it. But absolutely nobody is going to be able to do anything as far as access to it unless they carry their backpack in on their back. Yeah. They can't take a horse. They can't take a regular bike. All they can do is walk in with their backpack.
But, Rita, of all the times that we've had some of the hierarchy come in, whether it was George Bush in the past coming in here to this area, we had advance information. We in the media had advance information as to basically what it was going to be and what it pertained to. You've got to admit, this thing has been really under wraps and very secretive and kind of thrown on the basketball court all of a sudden.
Well, and that's what makes you think that there's something nefarious about it, because if there was something that they wanted everybody to know and they wanted good support and everything, they would put out a release and saying, hey, do this, and we want everybody to come. And now the way it is you've got these few Democrats that are trying to muster up enough people to have an audience. And I just think that if it was something they were really proud of and they were trying to do, everybody would know about it. But instead, it's like, let's go in after, in the dark and just keep everybody so that nobody knows anything about it, and it'll just be a surprise, and we'll be in there and out of there and no harm done.
Absolutely.
What we want.
I didn't mean to bother you at work at your office, but I wanted to get you on the air quick because I do agree with you. I said that the other night on Saturday evening from the people I've talked to. I believe it is a Boulder White Clouds monument status speech, but it all remains to be seen. And real quickly about the State of the Union tonight, I would call it the state of disarray. This man is going to come out tonight, I believe, and he's going to link most everything that's going on in this country today against the people that are out trying to increase their business, people that are out trying to increase their income, and he's going to have an attitude of wealth disintegration to the point where it has to be disseminated from the rich to the poor. I think we're going to see a lot of that speech tonight about how all of us that have should give to those that don't.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I heard a survey that was done this last day or two of what people think is the number one thing that has maybe changed since the Obama administration has come to be, and the number one thing is division.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's absolutely right, and it just makes me sick to think of everything that's going on. There's lots of taxes and everything that have started up starting January 15th, and they were all associated with Obamacare. One of them is the inheritance tax. It goes from 0 to 55% on estates over $5 million.
Right.
And that is going to be very, very detrimental to small businesses and farms, because those are the ones that will try to pass it on to their families, and they can't.
There you go. Rita, again, thank you so much for coming on the program unannounced. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We'll see you.
God
Thanks.
bless you.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm very, very, I don't want to say worried, but I am having a few trepidations about Obama coming to Idaho to speak, and nobody knows who put this all together and why. Now, the two common threads that we talked about this morning are maybe he's going to use Boise State University as a backdrop for saying and announcing, I'm going to really push for free education in this country. It's not free. You and I are going to pay for it. Or, like I said a moment ago, from some of the people I've talked to back east, they think he's going to use it as a backdrop for announcing the monument status of the Boulder White Clouds, which I am absolutely against. Caller, I'm going to ask your indulgence and patience. Let me get one commercial in. I'll be right there, I promise. 30 seconds. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, with Nick Greenwell and the whole staff. Absolutely excellent people with the best of sports medicine, the best of all the exercises, the best of that hydrotherapy pool. Oh my goodness, they help you get back to being you, the best. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call, 678-1191. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. How are you
yes,
doing
good, thank you.
Do you know that illustrious guys in the White House are going to speak tonight about the 1% that's wealthy?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know there's 1% of the American population is wealthy, and there's 56% of the people in the White House are wealthy?
Mm-hmm.
That's over millionaires.
Let me ask you something, George. Does it bother you, does it honestly bother you that people around the United States that are entrepreneurs and business owners or heads of corporations, does it really bother you that they make more money than you do?
No. Nope. Just if I want more, I'm just have to work harder and fine-tune my skills to get it.
That is a great answer. That is a great, great answer because, you know, we live in the land of opportunity. And there's nobody that's putting a thumb over the top of your forehead and saying, George, you've got to stay down low. You've got to stay minimal. You can't earn it. Nobody ever told you that. You can go out and do anything you want to do and accomplish as much as you want to accomplish. And I am sick and tired of this attitude that we're always condemning the people that have gone out and done something with their lives and their talent.
Zeb, 30 years ago, I had a G&T decking business. I made a fortune during the summer. I paid my guys well, and if I wanted more money, I'd just get more jobs. And I finally got too old to do that. But if I want money, I'd just go earn it.
There you go.
It's out there to grab.
But at one time, there were probably people sitting on their little bitty plastic lawn chairs saying, oh, that doggone George, look at him. Why, that's terrible. Look at all the money he's making. Meanwhile, they're sitting there sipping a beer they probably got finagled through food stamps, and they're not doing anything. I don't feel sorry for people that complain. Everybody has an opportunity.
It does, and something I found when I worked at Amalgamated. I worked my butt off. I gave them 110%, and I got promoted and got raises. And every time I did, the people that I went above was right perturbed because they sit back and complained they didn't get it.
Yeah. I appreciate your call. Go feed the dog. It's barking. It's hungry. See you later.
Okay, sir. Have a safe trip to Salt Lake.
All right, thank you, sir. God bless. Caller, I'm going to ask you to stay with me just a minute. I got to do a real quick weather forecast, and your call is very important. Do not hang up. It's brought to everybody this hour by Red's Trading Post. And if you are looking for the best of firearms, they've got all the big names: Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester, and oh my, too, don't forget to check on the concealed weapons classes from LMS Defense and Legal Heat. All the guns, all the ammunition, all the accessories at Red's Trading Post with our dear friend Ryan Horsley and the crew at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers with Dib at the Ranch. For all intents and purposes, you're really looking out as far as the weather. Because if you're in eastern Idaho right now, they got a pretty good-sized mess going all over the place. But that's eastern Idaho. Partly sunny today, mostly sunny tomorrow. The reason why is you're finishing up the system. And it's just not going to be clear, but there's not going to be snowing, and it's not going to be raining. You have no weather action today. Winds are not going to be bad. They're going to be about 5 miles an hour. A little cool. The daytime highs will still be in the low 30s, and that's going to stay like that all week long. Overnight lows will be in the low 20s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Tell me whether you got it.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it, buddy. Brought to everybody this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Caller, thank you for your patience. Go, please.
Yes, Zeb. One of the things that Mr. Obama is going to do is take credit for the price of gas going down and he had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with it. And then, the price of gas going down has also lowered the unemployment rate some because of obvious reasons. When we spend less on gas, we can actually hire people to do things, and so he's going to take credit for that too. And then everybody has already been, proponents of this theory that he somehow deserves credit.
Randy, I've tried to be fair with Obama, even though I absolutely do not like the man. I don't like anything about him or his ideology. But, I see a person that is absolutely against entrepreneurship. I see a person that is absolutely against America being number one and remaining number one. I see a person that I can't like. I can't like him. And I certainly don't need a person as president saying things like, oh, well, if you had a good year, and by the way, this is a paraphrase on a quotation he did make yesterday, well, if you had a good year, you should share with others that did not. Randy, I don't know about you, but I know that when I work hard and there is a payment for my working hard in the form of a larger income, I worked for that, nobody else. And I really don't want to give it to a deadbeat sitting there on a plastic lawn chair drinking a beer.
Well, let's face it, the resiliency of the American people to overcome his policies across the board is the reason why things are better in this country. And it has nothing to do with him, because he is probably secretly very upset that things haven't gotten worse, so he could, and I mean, let's face it. When somebody says they think this guy is actually cares about the country, I was in Pocatello not long ago, and I brought it up, and this lady says, oh, he's not doing anything wrong. And I thought, are you really from Idaho? Are you delusional?
Yeah.
But I didn't get rude with her. She's a nice lady. But you see, this is what happens when you really don't check and learn what is really happening in your country. But this is the way it is. The fools will be fooled.
Well, and that's a good segue into my next little segment I've got. Randy, God bless you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
I have a question here this morning that is, I've asked it many, many other times on this program. You've heard me. I've got it on tape. And now others in the news media are starting to ask it, and I say God bless them for asking this question. Where is the report on Bo Bergdahl? Where is the final summation as to whether he was a traitor to our country, whether he was a deserter, and why all of these things happen? That in order to get him back, we, on behalf of Mr. President Obama, gave away 5 very bad guys for Bo Bergdahl. Why are we not hearing this? The report's finished. The report is finished. And we're hearing little bits and pieces that we're not going to hear the net result of this report. You don't suppose the releasing of 5 very bad people was a disaster for this Obama administration, and they don't want to let us know all the facts and figures? You don't suppose that the Obama administration has put a hush on it? There are people that are saying that. You don't suppose the government is hiding and concealing the facts, do you? But we're not being told anything. And I was listening this morning to Judge Napolitano back on the East Coast, and his fear is that we never will. We may never hear a word about this because of the ink stains that might lead right to the Oval Office. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
That's about the way it's going to be, too.
Yep.
So far, so much for our so-called military justice that we signed up and we give that pledge. We would, honor and protect the Constitution of the United States. It's been blown clear out of the window, so let's just start over, people, and get rid of some of these crash.
You know, Al, I am just absolutely livid to think that the American people, if this case, I'll say this and see if you agree or not, if this case with Bo Bergdahl had taken place even as late as the 70s, I honestly believe the American public would have been clamoring outside the White House with pitchforks and waving baseball bats, demanding that they find out why a person could possibly be a deserter and traitor against his country, and why the administration traded 5 really bad guys for him.
I know it. They go through that deal, so-called, well, we're going to check it, and the White House has nothing to do with military justice. You might be able to, give a man a pardon if they found guilty and going to execute him. Mm-hmm. But leave it up to the military. We signed an oath that we would uphold the Constitution and defend this country. Okay, if a guy goes and deserts his unit and they lose lives looking for him, he's a deserter. Put the big D on his damn forehead and call it like it is.
I agree.
Quit trying to cover up this crap, because you criticize that poor sniper and all that, what he went through, Big Mouth Moore shooting his face off when somebody should punch his lights out. But no, we praise these guys that does against the rules and regulations, and then we damn the people that are trying to protect this world.
Amen. And it's very well said, too. I agree with you. Al, as always, thank you for your input.
Got it.
Thank you, sir. Caller, good morning. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Zeb, follow the money trail.
Yeah.
That bunch up in Wood River Valley, they're big contributors to the Obama administration, and that's why nothing's going to be done with Bergdahl.
And if the boy is innocent, if the boy is completely innocent as the driven snow, it should be brought out. It should be made public. It should be made aware to everybody in the news media, everybody in the state of Idaho, that the charges and the thoughts and everything else against him have been found to be innocent. But if he is guilty of being a traitor and or being a deserter, we also should have that knowledge, and we're not being told.
Well, during World War II, if this happened then, he would have been executed right on the spot.
Yeah. Tony, thank you very much.
Follow the money again.
I agree with you. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. God bless.
You're welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you. Oh, by the way, I got to throw this in. I'm a nitpicker. I know. But this morning early, and it was about, I think it was about 4:25 this morning, my wife picked up on this. Would somebody maybe tell the different news medias, the CNNs, the Fox Newses, the ABCs, NBCs, CBSs, that we have a state called Idaho. Say it again, class. Idaho. And Elizabeth on Fox News this morning said, well, and on Wednesday, President Obama is flying to Boise State University in Iowa. What? I don't understand why it's so hard to understand and comprehend that there is Idaho, there's Iowa, and there's about 1,600 miles in between. And I didn't know that Boise State had moved. Son of a gun. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. They've got the best of performance tires, like the Strategy, all-season design, long tread life. And go on in there for all your traction tires. Go on in there for all your batteries. I mean, all your good batteries, your snow chains. And go in there for the best in brake service. Absolutely the best in brake service. Professionally trained technicians, they know brakes. Well, you're taken care of. Safe driving, because you stopped into one of the 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I got to get this in real quick because it infuriates me. Oh, poor baby. Oh, poor baby. They're all upset now down in Southern California. No, cry. The illegal aliens that are in this country are honestly thinking about suing the Santa Barbara newspaper in California, because the Santa Barbara newspaper is sick and tired of all the illegal aliens coming in, and they wrote a headline story on their front page about illegal aliens, and they used illegal aliens and illegal immigrants, and the illegal aliens are all upset because they say that diminishes us. Well, you know something? This is your and my country. This is your and my Constitution. This is your and my First Amendment. You are what you are. If you're illegally into this country and you're not a citizen of this country, you are an illegal alien. Oh, gosh! That's what you are. Do I feel any sympathy or compassion? No. Like Frosty and I have said many times on Mondays, we are being overrun. And they, the overrunners, are taking over and telling us that are citizens and taxpayers of this country what they want done. Something wrong with this picture. Coming up next hour, we are going to have Scott Whitlock talking about Guantanamo Bay. The liberal thought about closing Guantanamo Bay is just absolutely driving me right up the wall. I mean, that facility is an excellent facility to take care of the vermin of the world, away from us here in the United States. But yet you got your liberal lefties that have got the combined IQ of a bicycle spoke that are trying to get it closed and pushing for it. And then at 9:30, Matt Philbin's going to be on the air talking about the Oscars and Al Sharpton. Oh, brother, there's a combination. I'll be back in 6. Welcome back. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Always at your disposal, locally owned and operated, Western Waste Services, 734-6969. And I'll tell you what, they are locally owned and operated, serving you. All of the residential, commercial, industrial, construction, and events, they can take care of your garbage. They've got all the porta potties. They've got everything to take care of you. And also all the dumpsters in various sizes, too, if you're cleaning out the garage or the basement or the upstairs or whatever. Just give them a call, 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Really nice people. Real quick, I also want to remind you about some other really, really nice people. And I had a chance to have dinner with Joel Heward and his wife the other evening. Nice folks. Of course, they are the managers of Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, and very flexible hours to serve you and your families. And when there's the passing of a loved one, I urge you to give them a call, 436-5636. Actually, all of us should give them a call beforehand and get more information on the pre-programming of funerals so that the stress and the worry is not going to be just absorbed by our family. They can help you, please, with the highest ethical standards and unquestioned integrity. At Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Going to go to the phone lines right now, and I don't remember having this gentleman on my program before, but I'll have him kind of like on What's My Line, enter and sign in, please. Good morning, Scott Whitlock. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, Scott, give us a little background about you before we get into our topic this morning. What do you do? What's your title? And who are you with?
Well, I'm the senior analyst with the Media Research Center, so we are a conservative organization that tries to expose the liberal media, and I write articles for newsbusters.org, our website, and do research and do studies and those sorts of things to expose the media.
You know, Scott, I'm just going to say this up front. I think actually your job is never done. Kudos to you and what you do, trying to expose the liberals for what they really are. And speaking of which, that's what we're going to talk to you about this morning. There is a major, major push by some very shady, seedy individuals, especially Democratic Representative Jackie Spire, that wrote a special to the Washington Post about a week ago by herself, and she said why Guantanamo Bay prison must be closed. In your opinion, why are they pushing every day to get Guantanamo closed?
Well, I think this is something that the president has said that he wanted to do. Yeah. He tried to do it since the beginning of his administration, and clearly I think the goal is to get it done by the time he leaves office. And they tried to do it before, and they weren't successful. So what you're seeing now is this kind of release the prisoners in dribs and drabs a little bit here and there. And what we found in the media is that they're just kind of ignoring this. What I read about a few days ago is when the latest round of a release of prisoners, it was 5 of them. We looked at it on Thursday, and in the morning shows, the only network that covered it was ABC, Good Morning America, and they gave it 16 seconds. And the other 2 networks didn't cover it at all. Mm-hmm. So they're just, I think the media and journalists know that this is not popular with the American public. It's not something that if they talked about it, it would drive up Obama's poll numbers, so they're trying to help him simply by ignoring it. You know, Scott, this question now is a little bit away just from Guantanamo, but why has the media in this country been so locked up by liberal thought? By liberal thought? Yeah. Well, that's a big question, but the media has been liberal for decades. It's people sometimes ask me if it's worse or better than it used to be, and I would say that it's as bad as it's ever been. It's just you have a lot more of it now. You have MSNBC, you have CNN, but this has been going on for decades and decades. Older people will remember Walter Cronkite and his bias on CBS News and lecturing Americans about the Vietnam War. So the media, journalists have not changed. They're as liberal as they've ever been. Let me talk a little bit about Guantanamo Bay Prison. Why do you suppose that liberals, they can't think past their nose? Why did they think it's a good thing for these prisoners to be released back into society, be it a society over in Yemen or be it a society over in Pakistan, whatever? Are they that uninformed and actually lacking in intelligence that they think that these bad guys won't go back and try killing Americans again? Well, it is a perplexing thing, but I think what you see with liberals, and particularly liberals in the media, is they often want to take the tack of, whatever is opposite of what middle America will say, and one of those things is they view Guantanamo as torture, as just abhorrent, and like the Nazis, and all these sorts of terms you've seen thrown around about Guantanamo Bay, and you see that again with the way the media covers it, the way liberals talk about this, and we can see it in other issues. So you look at the response to American Sniper, and Hollywood, which promotes violence all the time. Now you have these Hollywood people coming out and saying, "Well, we don't want to glorify a killer." So it's often just liberals in the media and liberals in general trying to kind of lecture us about what is right and wrong, and showing us that a moral superiority, I would say. Yeah. Scott, where do these liberals, where does the news media, where do the ABC, CBSs, et cetera, where do they want them to go? Where do they want the bad guys to go? Where do they want them to be housed? How do they want them treated? Well, that's the thing, and that's why I think you're not seeing too much coverage of this, is that they don't really have any answers for that, and that's why it's simply not being coverage. ABC gave it 16 seconds, and they pointed out that some of these prisoners that are let go are being going to Oman, which is right next door to Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
Yemen is a hotbed of Al-Qaeda activity, but that was it. They didn't. They gave it 16 seconds, and then just kind of moved on. They don't really seem to have answers to what to do with if these people go back to terroristic activities. How are they going to be monitored? They're not asking these questions. They're not doing the basic kind of journalistic due diligence that you would expect a responsible media to do. So it's sad, but the answer is they don't have one. They just and because they don't have one, and because this isn't popular with the American people, they just don't talk about it.
Let me ask you this, Scott, and you know this answer to this question far better than I would, because you're around these people every day. Aren't there still journalists that can really call themselves journalists instead of being yes and no men? Aren't there some journalists that are going to stand up and say, why? And ask the question and deserve and respect an answer? Are we that far down the road that we can't trust our media? We can't trust our journalism departments?
Oh, they're certainly good journalists, and that's kind of my answer when people will sometimes say to me, "Well, which is the best network?" And I don't really think you can answer the question that way. I think you can answer the question as to are there good journalists out there who are generally striving to be fair? I would say yes. My kind of go-to answer often when I get that question is Jake Tapper at CNN. I think he honestly strives to be fair and to be tough with whomever is in power, and ask the tough questions of whether it's a Republican or Democrat. And that's what we at the Media Research Center, and I think conservatives would want. We're not asking for a conservative bias. We're not asking for conservatives, don't hold them to account, don't ask them questions. Just do the same thing you're going to do for liberals. If you're going to ask a Ronald Reagan type president tough questions, then ask tough questions of a Barack Obama. So that's all we're asking for, and I would say that there are journalists out there, and Jake Tapper is a great example of one.
When you look at the closing possibly of Guantanamo Bay, after all the literally millions and millions of dollars we've sunk into that facility, and quite frankly, I'm offended as a taxpayer that they provided $750,000 for a renovation to a soccer field for these prisoners. Where are they going to go? Here in the federal prison system here in the United States? Are they going to be infiltrated into our prison system so they can wreak more havoc? I mean, these people are idiots that are trying to say we should house them here in the States.
Yeah, I think that's one answer that's not going to fly, and the administration has tried to push that in the past, and that didn't work. And so what we're seeing is they're releasing 4 or 5 at a time. And I think the Obama administration is trying to essentially close it down by the end of Obama's term, and that'll be the end of it. And one of the things I wrote about last week is kind of another thing that the media aren't covering is that you have Republican senators who are actually trying to stop this, to stop the kind of slow dribble release strategy of prisoners. Kelly Ayotte, senator from New Hampshire, being one, has been trying to move legislation to do that, and they're not covering that either. And so they simply don't cover it as a controversy or something where there's two sides to it. If they cover it at all, they give it 15 seconds here or there. And this is not the first time, I should point out, your listeners. We looked at it the last time Obama released prisoners was in December 7th to be exact, and they did the same thing. It was just very minimal coverage, and it's not something that they're really interested in talking about.
Let me ask you, with the Republican-controlled Congress and the Republican-controlled Senate, wouldn't there be more of an opportunity now than ever before to look at the news media and say, cover the story the way it should be covered, and we want results now? Or are the Republicans just putting their tail between their legs and not saying anything?
No, I think you're going to see, clearly there's going to be Republican legislation that is conservative legislation on this, Guantanamo, I think, and other issues, because they control the House and the Senate. Keystone Pipeline being one, that's something that is has a really good chance of getting through. But the question is, one of the things we're tracking is how much are they going to cover Keystone? How much are they going to cover conservative legislation that actually passes the House and the Senate? And I think what you might see is that they're going to try and just minimize it. So sometimes, when conservatives wonder, well, what are the Republicans doing, what are they going to get passed? The answer is, some of the time, is that the media, they're not really interested in that Republican legislation. They're not really covering it. So we're going to see what happens when that. As we go through this new session, we're also going to see if they cover things when Obama vetoes this stuff, because it passes the House and the Senate. What you're probably going to see is Obama veto it, and so who's going to get the blame then? A lot of this meme and talking points you're seeing in the media is do nothing Congress, obstructionism. Well, if Republicans are passing legislation and getting things done, if you will, and then Obama vetoes it, well, who's being obstructionist at that point? So we'll see how they cover that.
It's not on the agenda to talk to you about this morning, Scott, but you're a sharp guy. You can handle it. You'd be a lot better thinking on your feet than perhaps spokesman for the White House, Josh Earnest, who really ought to open up a Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers dance studio, the way he dances around questions. But when you look at the situation today with Josh Earnest as spokesman and Barack Obama and everybody else dancing around the Islamic jihadists or the Muslim terrorists, they won't use the words, they absolutely dance and skirt around it. Why? Why can't we call it what it is? If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it sure isn't an elephant.
Well, the short answer is political correctness, but we have seen exactly what you're talking about. One of the people we try and keep an eye on is Andrea Mitchell, because she is a veteran, I'm sure you know her, longtime NBC journalist, and now she has a show on MSNBC, which is full of liberals, but she's supposed to be kind of one of the more serious people because she's an actual journalist as opposed to someone like Ed Schultz. And immediately what she reacted to in France and really focused on was what she called, right-wing extremism, and she meaning the, right-wing or conservative parties in Europe. And that was the thing that she was most concerned about is, how is the right wing going to respond to this? Are they going to attack Muslims? Are they going to use this to promote anti-Islamic legislation? And, that just tells you something about their mindset, that her first focus, and many of these journalists, was not to really seriously look at the threat of Islamic extremism. It was to wonder about how are we going to react to Muslims, or Americans or Europeans, are they going to start being violent towards them, and things that aren't really happening, maybe on a very small level, but for the most part Americans and people aren't doing that. They aren't being violent, but that is their first response, or one of the overriding responses we've seen in France is to worry about violence against Muslims. And, I just think it's a politically correct mindset where that's where they focus their mind first, rather than what most people would say is the actual problem at hand.
Very well stated. Scott, you got to come back. I've enjoyed having you on the program. You did a wonderful job. Blessings to you, sir. Thank you very much, and I'll be in touch. Appreciate your conversation this morning.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you, sir. Very interesting about the media. They're really gutless. I mean, they really are the CBSs and the NBCs and the MSNBCs and, like he was mentioning, the Andrea Mitchells. They're just basically not the media anymore. They don't have the guts. Let's call it what it is. They don't have the backbone, the intestinal fortitude to report on stories and tell it like it should be. The news, the facts. They don't have the backbone. They've got an agenda, and that's pushing liberalism. It's pathetic. Thank you very much, Scott Whitlock, and appreciate that report on the potential closing of Guantanamo Bay. I don't think it's ever going to... I hope that facility never closes. I hope we never bring all that vermin to federal prisons here in the United States. I really do. I hope that never happens. Okay, Cheney Floors, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. I'm telling you, they changed their hours. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and Saturdays, 10 to 4. And they've got all the Valentine's Day decorations and decor in there. Oh, my goodness, you'd better get in and check out all the great items for your home and all the newly refurbished furniture, too, at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. As I say, look for the blue door. Also, real fast, I want to remind you about our friends at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Something for everyone. This is where the fun is sold. They've got all the Skidoo snowmobiles. Roam, 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 and head for the hills, I'll tell you what. And all the accessories. Oh, yeah, and I said this the other day, and a gentleman called me, and he said, boy, am I glad you reminded me about getting my four-wheelers all serviced and ready to go so I don't have to wait in the spring. Yep. Call and make an appointment today at 436-4771. Where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Now, normally, I like to always take a little time and read something first before I make a statement on the program so I understand what's being sent to me. But I'm going to read this, and this is from the Idaho Department of Transportation, and I think it was Dennis that sent this over to us, and it's from the Idaho Driving Handbook on 3.9 and 3.10, and it's talking about yellow lines. Now, I am not saying that Policeman Dan was wrong, but I'm not saying he was right either. Because his verbiage in his story that he had on Sunday regarding turning left or whatever across a double yellow line, this is what he said. He said, a left turn can't be made at all when there is a double line. Two lines, double line. Here's what it says in the book. Two solid yellow lines mean that neither lane of traffic can cross the lines unless they are turning, if it is safe to do so. The only time a driver is permitted to cross a double yellow line is when turning left into a driveway or entrance to a business. And again, with double yellow lines, no passing is allowed. So, if Dan's listening out there, Dan, kind of a confusing situation. If it were a double yellow line, and you had said that, you would have been right about turning. But you said a left turn can't be made at all when there is a double line. That's not true. That's not true, according to the Idaho Driving Handbook. So, Policeman Dan, if you'd like to call me on the air, I've got the paper right here in my hand. Okay, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk to you just a little bit about, did you hear that? What? Did you hear that? Well, if you're having trouble hearing, maybe you'd better call Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And, of course, 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. The number to call her for a hearing exam, 312-0957. That's right, 312-0957. About 2 out of 3 of every 1,000 children are hard of hearing or deaf. I didn't know that. And at age 65, 1 out of 3 people has a hearing loss. Well, don't be one of those folks. Go have your hearing checked today at Mount Harrison Audiology, 312-0957. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's see if Gina's over there. Are you there, Gina? Do we have our next guest?
Trying him now.
Oh, okay. I just want to read about the double yellow lines. 2 double yellow lines are used to indicate maximum restrictions. They can be used to form continuous median islands where there is a need for islands to separate vehicles traveling in opposite directions. These median islands may mark the beginning or end of shared center lanes, which are turn lanes, which are reserved for making left turns only. Shared center turn lanes are not to be used as travel lanes by motorists. 2 double yellow lines may be used to guide traffic where the pavement width changes to a lesser number of lanes. Passing is prohibited in both directions through the area marked by the 2 double yellow lines. But in nowhere, shape, or form does the law say, according to this driving handbook, that a left turn can't be made at all when there is a double yellow line. That doesn't say that.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Did you hear all this baloney that I've been going through?
Yes, I have been.
So basically, and again, I'm going to get a hold of Policeman Dan and let him know that, yes, you can turn left on a double yellow line, turning into an entrance, driveway, or business, whatever.
Yep. As long as it is safe to do so, there's no oncoming traffic.
There you go.
Now, just so you know, Matt Philbin is really, really sick. He wasn't able to come on the air today, but we do have Dan Gaynor in his spot.
Well, you just replaced one guy with even a greater guy, so that's just cool with me. Yep. Let's get him on the air. Hello there, Dan Gaynor. How are you?
I wouldn't say a greater guy, just a different guy.
Well, you've always
not so great. I know he's got to be dying. If he's missing radio, he loves doing radio. So if he's missing it, he is sick. I haven't seen him today. He emailed me. He didn't even sleep last night because he was so sick. It's that awful flu going around. You know how that is.
Oh, you know something, Brian? I got to tell you or Dan, pardon me. I'm talking about a guest that can't be on at 10:30. Brian Fairchild. He's a former CIA operative, and he called me yesterday, and he sounded like death warmed over. So what you just said, Dan, is really the truth. That flu bug is going all across America.
Yeah, and I mean, what's particularly interesting, they say the flu vaccine this year is 23% effective.
Wow. That's not so good for older people.
I'm not the year where I'm really lamenting that I didn't get the flu vaccine.
Listen, I got to tell you something. There is a gentleman back in your neck of the woods, and I use the term gentleman very loosely. I don't like this man. I don't like what he stands for. I think he is America's #1 racist. I think he is absolutely doing nothing but throwing oil on the fire, and here he does it again. Al Sharpton criticizing Hollywood with a boo-hoo because his race didn't win any special awards. Bring us up to speed, would you?
What's bizarre about and for people who follow us on Twitter, there's a Twitter hashtag called Oscars So White. And the idea here is that the Oscars, which last year chose both a black actress for one award and 12 Years a Slave for the Best Picture, suddenly overnight became racist because they picked all white actors and actresses this year. that they didn't choose Selma actors and actresses or director, even though Selma itself was nominated for Best Picture. I mean, I'm not going to defend Hollywood. I'm going to surprise people. I don't care. Not that this is not a news issue, but for an industry that is as anti-American as Hollywood is, that's founded on bashing America, bashing conservative principles, bashing Christianity, and is filled with a parade of lefty kooks. For somebody like Al Sharpton, who himself also a lefty kook, to be complaining that the liberal Democrats supporting Hollywood types are also racist, it's just hilarious. They don't need the right to intervene. They can just have this little fight themselves.
You know, when you look at this guy, though, and let's talk about Sharpton and all the havoc that he wreaks. This man has an open-door policy to go to the White House and the Oval Office and visit with Obama anytime he wants to, and that scares me. But this man has come out of obscurity, basically out of nowhere, and he owes us, the taxpayers, $4 to $5 million in back taxes, and he's walking the streets, causing trouble, criticizing Hollywood, acting like he's the man in charge. How does he get away with that?
Well, he gets away with it because Hollywood is so politically correct. Hollywood is the land of liberal nonsense. So anytime they do anything that might be offensive, they turn around and say, "Well, we've got to get Al Sharpton involved to make sure that we're not offending anybody, so that they don't get beaten up in the media." The media are Hollywood's a media town, and so the major media determine a lot of this. Al Sharpton has a show, conveniently got a show on a network just as Comcast was trying to purchase the NBC. Then nobody tried to stop the deal. Is he competent? No. Even Saturday Night Live makes fun of the fact that he can't get basic facts right on his presentation. They've done some very funny video about Al Sharpton, mocking him.
Mm-hmm.
But because Hollywood is what it is, the land of politically correct, they will not they won't dare to challenge it. That's what it comes down to.
So a year ago, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a year ago, which I do not follow the movie industry like I used to. I used to be in quite a few different movies with voiceovers and various things like that over the years, but then I got away from Tinseltown and all of its phoniness. But a year ago, a picture that was primarily a quote-unquote black picture won a lot of awards and won some of the Best Actor awards, and so this year, Selma is a movie that he's all upset didn't get anything as far as what he considers are appropriate accolades, and he's yelling foul and yelling race. What's with these people? Do they want 100% in favor of them all the time, anytime?
Well, no, it's funny. I think, I'm trying to remember who said this one. I can't remember. But somebody came out and said that if Hollywood is racist for not having enough blacks, then the NBA is racist for not having enough whites.
Yeah.
It's just silly. You're picking the best picture. You're picking the best actors and actresses. It's not a question of race. It never should be. It should be the question of performance, just as it's is in sports. No one is accusing Seattle and New England of being racist based on who their players are. You pick the best players. Well, the movie should be that way too. Now, of course, does Hollywood bend over backwards to be left wing? Yes, it does. Of course, it does. That's why the big whisper movement against American Sniper. But to say that everything in Hollywood is done based on race is ludicrous.
You know, I'm really glad that you brought up this American Sniper issue because I've been deeply saddened. I know quite a few folks that knew Chris Kyle. I know quite a few folks that are carrying on his legacy and his memory through various events, etc. But talk to me a little bit about Michael Moore. Here's a guy that's been very overpaid and underworked, a fat corpuscle of a man that always manages to put his foot in his mouth, and now condemning Chris Kyle as a coward?
Yeah, both he and Seth Rogen, who also made a stupid comment, comparing the Sniper movie to the Sniper film that appeared in the movie Inglourious Bastards, which was a Nazi propaganda film.
Right.
Both of them trying to back off of, but they, particularly in the case of Michael Moore, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to make himself relevant in a world that is passing him by. He was trying to get attention in a world where, Clint Eastwood's getting the attention. Clint Eastwood got in one weekend, I think, more money or close to it for his films than Michael Moore ever got from any one of his films. The Americans want to see feel-good entertainment. They want to be entertained. They want heroes. And Chris Kyle is a hero. And that galls them no end.
When you look at and I hate to use this word power associated with Al Sharpton, but really explain to me the power, the charisma, if you will, the availability of having what he wants through our government. Why? Why is this man, Al Sharpton, who is a pugnacious little man that is always in the way, why does he have so much power?
Because the media give him that power. It's funny, you don't see any other group, but the media designate black leaders. That's why Jesse Jackson is a black leader, and Al Sharpton, a black leader. And notice they will never say a conservative African American is a African American or black leader. You won't see anybody put in that role because the media don't want to give them that title. One of the publications just came out with a list of influential African Americans this year. This in 2014 or 2015. I'm not sure was looking back or looking forward, but they picked transgender Stacey Mock. I'd be willing to bet you couldn't find 1 in 10 African Americans out there who would pick Stacey Mock. But the media decide that if you're transgender and black, well, of course, you really must be influential then.
Oh, my goodness.
It is all a setup.
Well, I hope
this is why this happens. I mean, people forget Al Sharpton's history, which is not good. In New York with Howard Beach, with Tawana Brawley. He has a history of being a race inflamer, a race baiter. That's how he's made his career. But because the major media don't want to keep telling you about those incidents years after the fact, and because he, of course, has a job at the sister station of one of those networks, you're not going to hear about it.
Dan, you said something earlier, and we'll kind of wrap it up on this, but I'd like you to elaborate on it just a little bit more. You were mentioning an analogy about sports teams, whether it's the NBA versus the NFL, or whether it's versus Major League Baseball, and the numbers of various races that are represented. And you said it very articulately, what difference does it make? Let's get the best people for the job. But that's not necessarily the case when you have race baiters like Al Sharpton.
Yeah, it should always be picking the best people. That's what the Constitution says. Our ancestors came here, no matter how they came here. They came here, and we're all here now. We're all Americans. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, and Martin Luther King is part of the heritage of all Americans, just as Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln are part of the heritage of all Americans. And one of the things that King said was he longed for the day when his children would be raised and judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character.
Absolutely.
I wish the media would start doing the same.
Amen. Well, do me a favor and tell Matt Philbin that we wish him the best. And
I know, and I'm sure you'll be talking to him soon.
All right. God bless you, Dan Gaynor. Have a great day. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Nice man right there, Dan Gaynor with the Media Research Center. And I appreciate him coming on and filling in for Matt Philbin today, talking about Al Sharpton. Every time, remember when Al Sharpton used to be really, really obese? You remember that? Remember when Al Sharpton, when he was walking around the corner, his stomach would get ahead of him probably by 6 seconds? He was a big fat guy. And he had great big roly-poly cheeks. And I don't know what kind of a stomach reduction or calorie reduction he was on, but he's very, very scrawny. Like a little scrawny chicken, a little scrawny rooster that wants to cause all kinds of trouble. That's what Al Sharpton is today. And for him, honestly, to complain and say that the Academy Awards are rigged, that they're biased, that they're racist, because his movie that was supposedly the favorite, Selma, about Alabama back in the 60s, didn't win all the What do these people want? Answer that question. What do these racist people want? Well, they want their numbers to be in excess of ours. They want sports teams to have favorable numbers in favor of them over us. They want coaching staffs to be in excess numbers over us. And then all of a sudden, that's going to make equality, and that's going to make them sit back and smile and say, oh, everything's just fine now. We're in control. Why not just hire the people that are best suited for the job? This idiocy and incompetency like what's happening in NBA and also college sports, etc. Oh, well, wait a minute. You fired this guy and you hired this guy, but you didn't give this job to a black coach. We're going to get you. Let's just stick with colorblindness and hire the best person for the job. Okay? And the same with awards. For the best picture, the best actor, the best actress, whatever. Let's just pick the best people that do the best job. Al Sharpton, please, just go sit in the corner and be quiet. Let's not forget our dear friends at Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. The number to call, 324-2004, 324-2004. Minor emergencies, major care, they will see you today. If all of a sudden you've got a sprain, a strain, a fracture, injury due to work, whatever, they're waiting to serve you. That's right. Treat patients who have an injury or illness that requires immediate attention. They can help you. So remember the name, Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome, Suite B, and the number, 324-2004. They will see you today. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zib at the Ranch. For all intents and purposes, you're really looking out as far as the weather. Because if you're in eastern Idaho right now, they got a pretty good-sized mess going all over the place. That's eastern Idaho. Partly sunny today, mostly sunny tomorrow. The reason why is you're finishing up the system. And it's just not going to be clear, but there's not going to be snowing, and there's not going to be raining. You have no weather action today. Winds are not going to be bad. They're going to be about 5 miles an hour. A little cool. The daytime highs will still be in the low 30s, and that's going to stay like that all week long. Overnight lows will be in the low 20s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Show the weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. And again, brought to you by Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Minor emergency, major care. Call them at 324-2004. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. Gina, I was going to ask you about that numbers system. Doesn't it bother you a little bit as a journalist when you used to be with KMBT, etc., that there are a huge amount of people, a large growing number of people, like the Al Sharptons and everything, that absolutely, if they don't win they're going to cry foul. If they don't have the numbers in majority, they're going to cry foul.
They're crybabies.
Well, besides that, they really are the permeators of racism more so than anybody else.
Absolutely. You and I have discussed this before. Al Sharpton and, his whole following, nothing but race baiters. If they don't get their way, they're going to pull the race card. They do it time in, time out. And I cannot believe that he's still allowed to do so. He's still allowed to walk the face of the planet, and he's not in jail for tax evasion.
Well,
I would be in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you got that right, sister. But let me ask you this. Here's Al Sharpton that's nothing more than a community organizer, i.e. like Obama. He is a man that likes to live off detrimental circumstances, and he makes a living off of racism. That's the honest-to-goodness truth.
Yes.
And yet, here he is, all of a sudden becoming a Siskel and Ebert as far as being a noted film critic, which he is really not.
No.
And he is sitting back saying, well, the reason that Selma didn't get all the Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor and Actress awards is because of racism. And this is what really bugs me. Evidently, from the people that I've talked to across the United States, Gina, the movie just isn't that doggone good.
See, I've never honestly heard of the movie, so that's how up on that topic that I am. But, you judge a movie on its credits, not and on its true value, and not just because it contains one color of race or the other. And why he is even trying to enter that realm of trying to be a film critic, he just really needs to go away.
Well, let me ask you this question. Now, you're a young mom, but you know a lot about what's going on around the world because of your journalistic ability. If I were to ask you to name 2 black actors that come to mind and are very prominent in movie industry, who would they be? Quickly.
Damon Wayans.
Okay.
And I would say Bill Cosby, but he's not really in film anymore.
Okay, but those are 2 different names than I would have come up with, and that's good because you're showing diversity of different names. I would have said somebody like Sidney Poitier from back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and then modern day I would have said Denzel Washington.
Oh, see, 2 names that I didn't even, even think of. Or there's Spike Lee.
Yeah, but to say like Al Sharpton, who is a man that should never be respected, to say that it's racism because certain individuals or movies didn't get awards because it doesn't fill their bill, that's wrong. Look at all the accolades. Look at Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. There's so many good actors out there. It doesn't matter what their color is. But the only thing that matters to him, though, is color.
Yeah.
Because that is his shtick. That is what he's known for. And he's just, like I said, he's a pot stirrer. And when people give him the audience, he is going to play to that audience. People just need to stop paying attention to him, or start not paying attention to him. And just kind of ignore what he says, and then maybe he'll get a clue that he's not relevant anymore.
When is there going to be, here's a question for you to answer, and everybody else call in. When is there going to be an outcry for reverse racism in this country? Now, when I say that, let me paraphrase and give you a meaning on that. I watched an NBA game the other evening, and on both benches, there was not a white player on either team. So if they're crying for equality and they're crying for, well, we've got to have all these black coaches, we've got to have this, that, and the other, when is there going to be a point in this country where the Caucasians are going to say reverse racism?
Amen. Thank you. Because truly we are becoming the minority.
Yeah.
They have pulled the race card so many times that I find it highly irrelevant. And honestly, for me, I'm a double minority. Not only am I a white girl, but I'm a girl. I'm a female. I'm a single mom.
Yeah.
And so, pretty soon, the joke is going to be, and I might get shot in the foot for saying it this way. Have you seen the new show? And it's called Empire.
Okay.
With an all African American cast.
Yes, I have, as a matter of fact, and I've read the reviews.
Where is there where's the Caucasians in there?
They're not.
Exactly.
But the point you and I are both making, and I think we can speak for each other on this, is that there's going to come a point in time to where we are conceding and making concessions and making adjustments, and all based on race, to the point where we're actually denigrating and abusing our own race.
Amen. Thank you. You know, we don't matter anymore. Honestly, the Caucasian race does not matter anymore. And it's to me, I don't think it should even be an issue of race. I think, and I've stated this before, I don't care if you're the color purple. We all still bleed the same color, which is red. We all still breathe the same air, and, you know, we walk the same path. So why is color such an issue? Because they make it an issue. It's not me. I don't care what color skin you have. I care what's in your heart and in your mind.
Bingo.
You're the one that cares about the race, and so if you're going to continue on with this path, well, fine, then I'm going to start pulling the race card as well.
Yeah, well, look at, I'll go back to a gentleman that I have the highest respect for. I've read every one of his books, and I think he's not only a great, great coach, but he's also a great, great human being, and that's Tony Dungy.
Yes.
Former coach of the Buccaneers and also the Colts. And that man absolutely is the epitome of what I think a good Christian should be. Do I care if he's Negro? No. Do I care if he was purple? No. I just think that he is absolutely a great family man. He's a great coach and deserves the accolades that he receives.
Yes.
Why in the world does society today, from the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and everyone else, why do we always have to have an association with color contrast to make sure the numbers are in somebody's favor?
You know, I don't know, but obviously, okay, so yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr.'s day.
Yes.
Have we moved beyond that? Have we moved beyond?
No.
Racial, we haven't, and we were there, and now we've regressed.
Yeah.
Our society's regressed 40 years.
How dare people, though, and I'm running out of time, but I just wanted to get you to respond, and I got to do a commercial. How dare the Al Sharptons of the world and others sit there and condemn whether it's a major university or whether it's a major sports franchise and say, oh, that was terrible. You hired another white guy. I don't care who they hire, as long as they hire the best person.
Thank you. It has nothing to do with skin color. It has everything to do with your ability.
There you go.
You don't have the ability, you don't get the job. You do, hey, there you go. You can have a raise.
Whew, that was a fast 10 minutes.
I know.
Okay, thanks, Gina. Hey, by the way, folks, I want to remind you about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, with Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens. Oh, my goodness sakes, they're dedicated and responsive to your needs, and very accessible and devoted to making sure that you have a sound, successful future with your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. All you have to do is just give them a call at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, serving you. And real quick, before we go too far, I also want to remind you about the menu today at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, ooh, this sounds really good. Chicken paprikash over white rice with veggies and super salad. That's today. Chicken paprikash over white rice. Always delicious food. Always nice people. You're going to love the environment at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see those really, really good folks today at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Now, here's what's coming up in the next half hour. Dr. History is gone. Yes, he is. He's up in Boise. And by the way, his mom, we want to wish her the very best. She had a stroke about a week ago, and I understand from Dr. History doing very, very much better, and I'm so glad to hear that. But due to the fact that he's taking care of family matters and everything with the family, we're going to run a repeat performance of Dr. History today. And so don't call in. Don't try to ask any questions. And we're going to have that coming up at 10:06 this morning. Then we're going to have Dan Kish with the IER, Institute for Energy Research, coming up at 10:30. And he's going to be giving us just a little bit about the State of the Union and what it means for energy, what the president's going to talk about on climate change, and how it may cost us a lot of money. So you stay tuned. I'll be back in 6. Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. Oh, thank you very much and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday. Brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Locally owned and operated. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. It is time for Dr. History, and Dr. History, of course, is brought to you by Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main in Burley. The number to call, 878-2091. I'm going to do the good word from Minnecasia Sales right now, and then, as I said, we're going to have a repeat command performance of Dr. History in just a moment, so stay tuned. Minnecasia Sales is a retail business. I had a chance to really sit down and visit with Zach the other day and found out all about their windows and their doors and their garage doors and their carpets and their vinyl and their metal siding. And, of course, they've got also a distributor for Tartar Ranch and farm equipment, the panels, the cattle handling equipment, water tanks, waterers, everything right there with Minnecasia Sales. Get a hold of them today. Number to call, 878-2091. That number again, 878-2091, or stop in. They're located at 1321 East Main in Burley. Minnecasia Sales bringing you Dr. History. And right now here is our segment on Dr. History for this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I have run out of superlatives to announce this man's going through the door with his great big musty dusty old book and his glasses on the rim of his nose as he sits down in a great big down-filled chair to relate to us happenstances of history. And he is known as Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. You still have a few good ones.
Yeah, but they're getting fewer and far between.
Well, you're creative.
I try to be. How are you, my dear friend?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying the Olympics a little bit, and yeah.
What, speaking of the Olympics real quick, what is your favorite events, plural, in the Olympics?
Well, I love basketball, so I love watching basketball. I wish I could watch more of the equestrian stuff, but I just can't seem to find it.
See, now, I announced the equestrian at the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was the highlight of my entire career.
I would love to watch more of that, but like I said, I guess maybe it's not as popular, and they just don't show much of that, or I'm just not looking in the right place.
Well, ABC and the powers that be, or pardon me, NBC and the powers that be, I think they pick and choose what the overall numbers reflect are more interested in, be it the swimming, be it the track and field, be it whatever. I know that we'll see the basketball. And speaking of the basketball, I'll just make you a little wager here real quick. I think that because of that so-called spat between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, the past great team, the dream team, and now the so-called dream team of today, I think that they're going to absolutely go undefeated and take the gold with no problem whatsoever.
I don't see anybody standing in their way.
I don't either.
No, not really.
The only group that can trip them up is themselves.
Yeah, and the game I saw first, they seem to be pretty unselfish. For the most part. And if they'll stick to that, I think they'll do all right.
I do too. Now, that leads us up to a history lesson today. Let me get my marker here and tap on the desk. Okay, Professor, you are now teaching.
All righty. I do some famous and some not so famous, and this one is a not so famous.
Oh, my goodness. We're going to talk about a lady that opened up a... Never mind. We're going to go ahead.
No women involved.
Okay.
This is about some escaped convicts.
Oh.
September 17th, 1871, there was a massive prison break at the Nevada State Prison outside Carson City.
Mm-hmm.
And plans for the escape were first hatched September 3rd, and for the next 2 weeks, the breaking out was kind of a constant topic among the inmates. The question of leadership was discussed among the prisoners. Jack Davis, this is not Diamondfield Jack that we know of here, but he was a trained robber, and he was considered for being the leader of this bunch, but some didn't particularly like him because he had turned state's evidence against some other guys at one time previous, so they didn't particularly want him.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy named Morton, and he was convicted of robbery in Elko County, and he had received a 30-year sentence. I think they were sometimes a little tougher back then.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, but 30-year sentence. But Morton and a fellow prisoner named Frank Clifford, they worked up the plan for the break, and they figured it all out. And on Sunday, September 10th, the preparations started. The ceiling was cut away to allow access to a crawl space, and a portion of the wall above this was dug out. The ceiling was replaced so the guards wouldn't detect the escape route. So they had things worked out pretty well. So a week later, Sunday, September 7th, everything was ready. They were completed. There were 14 prisoners that were posted to watch over the room of the deputy warden. There were others that were positioned between the ceiling and the roof to pass the signal on to the 14 prisoners. And when unfortunately the captain of the guard, his name was Rollins, he entered the cell rooms about 6 p.m. to lock down for the evening. Well, he was knocked out, and the other prisoners would have killed him, except there was another prisoner that stopped them and drugged him into a cell so that they wouldn't kill this guard.
I see.
So anyway, the guards outside, they didn't know what was happening. They didn't know about the attack on Rollins, and they didn't know that, obviously, that a break was underway. Well, the prisoners climbed to the top of the upper tier of cells. They cut a passage into the quarters of the prison warden. So evidently the prison warden actually lived there at the prison. His name was Frank Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each convict was armed with a slingshot and or a crudely fashioned knife.
I see.
Now, slingshots wouldn't do a lot against a gun, but, they did what they could. They rushed into the warden's quarters, and there they were met by the warden, and he had a gun, and he started firing at them because his wife and daughter happened to be visiting right then. Well, the prisoners overpowered Denver, the warden, and he was severely wounded, but they didn't kill him. And so now the prisoners fled down some stairs to the prison armory, and here they got themselves outfitted with weapons, ammunition, some clothes. Okay, so now they've got guns. And they charged out of the main building into the yard and began firing at every guard or whatever they could see. And nearly every guard and several of the prisoners were wounded, and many of them pretty seriously, some of the guards anyway. But anyway, once outside the prison walls, there was 22 of the escapees that marched eastward, and 2 guys went west, and 5 went, south or north, another direction. But anyway, this larger party of 22, they soon divided up, some going alone and others kind of breaking off into groups. One of these groups was comprised of 4 guys, and that's who I'm going to kind of center this about.
Okay.
The leader was a guy named Morton. They had a guy named Moses Black, Charles Jones, and J.B. Roberts. Now, these were rough characters. I mean, they'd been convicted of some pretty bad things, robbery, grand larceny, all kinds of things, and they were desperate, dangerous men. And, once outside the prison walls, they decided that this Jones guy would be the best qualified to lead them, and he also knew the area that they were going to. So he took charge of the command, and they headed towards a place called Round Valley. Now, I looked on a map, and I couldn't see that. Are you familiar with that?
I wonder if that's down there by, there's a truck stop down there at Round Mountain, Nevada. Is that in that area?
I'm not sure. I tried to find this, but it says they went east out of Carson City, so...
I bet it is. Sure. I bet it is. Yeah, go ahead. That's great. I think it is.
Okay. So anyway, on Wednesday, September 20th, 4 of these converts from this Jones group passed inside of Aurora, Nevada. Now,
Okay.
and I don't know if you know where that is.
Okay, yeah, I think we're in the right area. Go ahead.
Okay. But it was soon learned that these 4 men had captured a Pony Express rider named Billy Poor. And it was believed that they had taken him hostage. And a posse consisting of a deputy sheriff, which was actually Billy's brother, and half a dozen other citizens started out in pursuit. And they eventually struck onto the trail. Now, as they were going along the trail, they found one of Billy's gloves, and then another glove, and then they found part of his shirt, and then they found his boot tracks. And it was hopeful that he was still alive and could be saved, but unfortunately, 24-year-old Billy had already been killed. Now, it was Jones who was responsible for capturing the Pony Express rider at gunpoint, ordered him to dismount, and 2 of the men, Morton and Jones, they escorted Billy about 200 yards from the road. They kind of held him up on each side, and they ordered Billy to take his clothes off, and they gave him a prison shirt. And when Billy pulled the shirt over his head, he was somewhat, he thought this was okay. They were going to give him clothes to keep him warm, but as his head came through the neck hole, he found himself looking into the muzzle of a six-shooter, and unfortunately, in a minute, poor Billy was dead, and but they took his clothing and trying to get out of their prison garb, I guess. But unaware of Billy's murder, the posse continued to track these guys. Now, Mono Jim was an Indian tracker with the posse, and he let them know that where the convicts were camped, some 5 miles away. Well, the pursuers were fatigued, they were tired, and their horses were spent. They didn't have a lot to go on, so the deputy leading the posse, he sent a note to another sheriff, a deputy sheriff, and he basically said, in his note, he said, 4 or 5 escaped convicts from the Nevada State Prison are now concealed in the hills back of this place, and they are undoubtedly striking for Long Valley. If you can raise a posse and go there, you will surely intercept them. I think they will travel tonight. We have tracked them beyond a doubt to this place. They have, I think, 4 animals, which must be nearly given out. They have taken them with them, Billy Poor, the pony rider, for their own protection. Should you go, be careful not to injure him. My men are very much fatigued and some taken sick, or I would be riding tonight. There is a reward, $500 for each, dead or alive. Send me an answer immediately, as I expect to start early in the morning. If you think it more advisable to join me here, use your own discretion. But if you do anything, not a moment is to be lost.
Right.
So that was the note that was sent. And so as soon as that deputy got the news, he got a couple of men and began to organize a new posse, a fresh group of guys. And they gathered all the ammunition and the guns and one thing and another that they could get. Well, they joined up with this. The 2 groups joined together. And at about a place called Hot Springs, and again, I'm not sure where that is either, the posse started up this canyon, and after going about 2 miles, they found the trail of the escaped convicts. And they followed it about 18 miles south into this place called Long Valley, and here they finally caught sight of the convicts.
Uh-oh.
Well, night was coming on, and so the posses went to a ranch nearby and stayed for the night. And the next morning, they were up and chasing the convicts, and evidently these guys were partly on foot, too. But anyway, as 3 of the convicts retreated and they hid behind a big tree, they started firing at the posse. Well, the posse started firing back, and 4 of the posse's horses were hit. And so the posse fell back to some willows for shelter, and they shot back and forth for about 20 minutes. And meanwhile, the convicts were working their way up this canyon, and they were able to hide in some willows. And at the top, they finally stopped for rest. Well, the posse followed in pursuit, and Morton, one of the convicts, he came around in another way, and he caught Mono Jim, the posse's Indian guide, who was actually holding a couple of horses. Well, Morton fired 2 shots and killed Mono Jim right there. Well, Morton took the 2 horses. He continued up the canyon, and at that point, the posse kind of retreated. And anyway, the deputy and his men, they buried Mono Jim right there on the spot. Now, at this point, this posse kind of, I don't know what happened. They kind of gave up, I guess. So
wait a minute.
Anyway,
there's all these posse. Just a minute. I got a question for you. There's all these posse members. It sounds like it was a pretty good sized posse. And there's what, 5 outlaws, and the posse gave up.
4. Yeah.
Holy cow.
That doesn't quite make sense to me, but I guess they just didn't want to be shot at because, most of them were volunteers.
Yeah, they must have been members of the Obama administration.
They were volunteers. This is getting too hot. So, anyway, a new party headed by volunteer farmers started out after these murderers, and this actually maybe they just joined with the others because it says it was an additional posse, and it was assembled from local residents, and they were kind of operating independent of these first guys.
I see.
But they tracked the fugitives into a rough canyon into the Sierra Nevadas, and they just kept going and chasing them so hard that the convicts eventually they shot a horse that was too tired, and they lost another one over a cliff. And anyway, this particular posse, they'd gone from Sunday till Tuesday night without anything to eat. And finally word was sent that they had cornered the fugitives in a canyon. Well, a man was dispatched to a camp called Camp Independence, where there was a Major Egbert, and he selected 5 of his best men, and they had rifles, and some citizens joined them. And anyway, 4 officers with a Mexican guide and a party of Indian trackers, they succeeded in capturing this Morton guy and Moses Black.
I see.
Well, there was a brief exchange of gunfire between the fugitives, but they dropped their weapons, raised their hands, and when they raised their hands, one of the Indians kind of mistook this for an act of aggression, and so he shot and hit Black right in the head, and went through his skull and passed out the other side, but it didn't kill him.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
No, so here's this guy, Morton and Black's got a bullet through his head, and he's still alive.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but anyway, these 2 guys were taken to a house, put in custody, and they told where one of the other guys was, that he was badly wounded, so the officers went after him, and they pursued him for 2 days until they got him. But this Morton and Black, after a while, when they got back, Black had died. I mean, a bullet through the head is not too good of a prognosis.
Gee, Doc, that is really a great observation on your part.
My medical training comes in good sometimes.
I can't imagine. Most people wouldn't have picked up on that, but you hit it right on the head.
Well, anyway, so they were digging one grave for the guy that had the bullet through his head, and they decided, as long as we're digging one grave, we just well dig another one. So they took Morton out to a tree and hung the guy.
Oh, my goodness.
But, he'd killed several people, and the reward that was on him was so small that they decided that it really wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
So they just hung the guy. So anyway, by November of 1871, 18 of the convicts had been captured and returned to prison. 10 of the escaped prisoners were never seen or heard again.
Really? 10 got away scot-free, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Holy cow.
So,
now, and some of them moved into this area, and one of them is a great-great-grandfather of yours that started a chiropractor business.
That's right. He learned, stay away from guns. Don't get shot in the head.
But really, did they ever find out the names and possibly family affiliations that might have been traced back to these guys?
Well, they knew all the names of the guys, and I wonder if maybe some of the guys that escaped weren't necessarily very bad criminals, and so they figured, we'll just let them go. Or not really let them go, but it was only a $500 reward, and so it really wasn't worth a bounty hunter to take off after them.
Here's what's interesting, though, and I want to get your response on this. You said that these 5 left in a group, and then you noted the fact that there was a very skilled Indian tracker. Now, doesn't it make sense to you that it would have been better for all parties concerned, every man for himself, and scatter in different directions instead of go as a group?
Well, that would be my thinking, yeah. Because when you're with a group, you're going to leave obviously a bigger trail.
Absolutely.
So.
And going single, they probably had a better chance of getting here. I'm taking the side of the bad guy, and I don't mean to, but they made it absolutely kind of obvious and easier for the posse to trail them.
Yeah. Well, the title of this book, part of it says "Bungled, Bizarre, and Fascinating Executions."
Wow.
So this was somewhat bungled.
somewhat bungled. The guy gets shot through the head, doesn't die immediately, but they go ahead and dig 2 graves anyway and hang the other guy. I mean, come on now. Really, though, when you think about it, getting out of a major prison like that was quite a feat in itself, wasn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's. I think it was the Nevada State Pen.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Hey, I sent you a poem last week.
Yes.
Did you want... I don't know if you wanted that or not.
I appreciate that, and I don't have it right here on my desk, and I can't get up and go get it. If you have a copy, and it won't take you more than 3 minutes to read through it, I'd love to have you do it on the program.
I could do it right now.
All right, well, why don't you just go ahead? I don't think, according to my memory, it should take more than 3 minutes, so I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead.
It's not that long.
All right, go ahead.
And remember, I'm just an amateur poet.
Oh, that's all right. Go right ahead.
It's called Ode to My Countrymen. There once was a man named Obama. We are pretty sure that he had a mama. But we're a little bit forlorn because we're not sure where he was born. He emerged from the Windy City, now lives in the big house in D.C. A big concern that causes us to fret is the huge growth in the national debt. No doubt this man knows how to spend, but when and where will this ever end? Nancy and Joe are there in the mix. This country they claim they know how to fix. This man, he needs but 4 years more. Are we willing to gamble for what's in store? He talks to leaders over the seas, but I don't want to speak Russian or Chinese. If founding fathers were alive today, they'd be shocked at what politicians say. The Constitution needs brought back. Give politicians little or no slack. Let's tell them they have no choice. They better listen to the people's voice. This great land is blessed from above. This United States is the place I love. When I see the flag, you know I'll stand, and over my heart, you'll see my hand. And of course, one thing is a must. Always remember, in God we trust.
Absolutely. Very well done by a dear friend, and that's Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner.
And I started waxing poetic,
Well, I tell you what,
I used to be an English major.
It is absolutely a very good poem. I appreciate you doing it on the air. And there's one thing I want to remind you of on this last day of July, the 31st. We are just literally a couple of weeks away from the Cassia County Fair and Pro Rodeo. And that means that I, personally, am only a couple of weeks away from sinking my grinners into a maple bar covered with bacon. I just want to remind you of that.
Oh, yes. Well, it's become a tradition now. I mean, I can't stop now.
Oh, no. Nor would I let you.
I noticed last year, I took them to you about a half an hour before the rodeo started, and about 10 minutes later you said, we're done.
Yeah, I wanted to be. I wanted to be very emphatic that, gee, Doc, don't be so cheap. Send up 2 boxes.
Okay, well, maybe we'll get two packages of bacon this time.
All right. Hey, listen, Doc, God bless you. Thank you for your wonderful poem and the story about the escaped convicts in the Old West. And I'm sure, with that being said, that you have a little preview of what we're going to hear next week. Go ahead.
Well, I actually am looking at a story about a very brave Indian that I may just use that next week. It's a pretty kind of an interesting one that I've got.
All right, we'll look forward to it. And in your real life, he's one of the great chiropractors in our area, Dr. Ken Turner. God bless you, sir, and thank you for being on the program.
You bet. Have a good day, Zeb.
You bet. Thank you much. All right, there you go. Dr. History, excuse me, a voice from the past, one of our other old shows. And the reason we played that this morning, excuse me, again, is because of the fact that Dr. History out of town and in Boise with the rest of his family, and we certainly wish his mother well in her healing and recuperating process. Dr. History, of course, brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091. Don't forget, right across from the Burley Airport, Minnecasia Sales retail business that has just absolutely something for everyone. You stop in and see them today. Right now, we're going to take this break, and we'll be back in just a couple of moments.
And now, Now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour on Zeb at the Ranch for this morning. Before we get our next guest on the program, I want to remind you about our dear friends that help sponsor a segment on Thursdays called School Days in Cassia County, and that's, of course, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Ambulatory Surgery Center. Right now, don't forget, at A Child's World, 30% off winter clothes and shoes, and if you're looking for a baby present for that special little cuddly one, they've got all kinds of baby items over at A Child's World. And don't forget, gift wrapping is always free, and they carry all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs and shoes. So stop in today to A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, too, Ambulatory Surgery Center. The number to call, 677-8888. They're located at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. And if you need a surgery, perhaps because of carpal tunnel syndrome, or maybe you've got a bad knee, or maybe need a life-saving colonoscopy, please give them a call. They can save you a lot of money. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center, along with A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. Right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and one of my favorite guests when it comes to energy and understanding what's going on or not happening in the world of energy is the Senior Vice President of Policy at the Institute of Energy Research, and that's, of course, Dan Kish. Dan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine, and hope you are, too.
I am, sir, but I got to tell you something, Dan. For some reason, I've got this really inhibitive feeling that tonight at about 7 p.m. here Mountain Time, we're going to have the rug pulled out from underneath us on energy. What we liked for a very short time on low prices is going to be gone. What we might hear is extreme gas taxation, higher fuel taxes. I'm just really afraid what this president's going to do. Bring me up to speed. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sort of in the same boat as you. The good thing is he can't do it all himself. So unless members of Congress go along with him, but let's face it. I mean, you know, it's got to stop deluding ourselves if we're thinking differently. He wants higher energy prices. He wants the stuff that we use to go up in price. So his favorite forms of energy that can't make it in the free market will be competitive. And so what's happened with gas prices, for example, is not part of his agenda. But he'll take credit for that, as though he did something, even though if it were up to him, prices would be higher than they were before because production's actually going down on the federal land side. So I think we'll see that. He's going to talk about, gee, we need new modern infrastructure for the 21st century, and on and on and on and on, and you know, what he's really saying there is we want to tax people more on the gasoline to go to roads, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily oppose gas taxes if they go to roads, but the problem is they goes to Washington and then they got a special road their own that goes into their own pockets or the pockets of their friends or nonsense as opposed to regular good old roads. And you know, we got a socialist president. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Let's break this down a little bit. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the economy. Right here in my area, I can honestly say I've had numerous calls and numerous emails from people that have said, oh my goodness, with these lower gas prices, you know, we've got money to go and help on maybe certain other aspects, buying the kids shoes or new clothes, or we can go here, we can go to this restaurant, whatever, we're saving a little money. I just think this is going to be short-lived. I think this man will do anything to get these gas prices back up to 3, 4, 5, and maybe even higher gallons per price for diesel and gasoline. And then I want you to comment also about power plants and methane regulations. This is something new. I think this guy's really going to pull a fast one on us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple of different ways. It's like an engine. You know, you can cut off the fuel, you can stuff a potato in the exhaust, you can cut off the oxygen supply. There's different ways to kill an engine. I think we all learned back in the good old days when folks worked on engines. But by and large, what we've got here is he's using all the various tricks. If you go back to the, he was telling us 2 years ago that we couldn't drill our way to lower gas prices. We couldn't. He was laughing. He was making fun of, deriding people who thought, gee, the answer to high prices is to drill more in the United States. And, of course, we were able to do that because he couldn't stop us on private and state lands. He did a pretty good job on the federal lands. And so that's where he comes from. And then you'll remember his Secretary of Energy, first Secretary of Energy, who said that he thought we ought to be paying prices like Europe, which at the time was about $9 a gallon.
Yeah.
So this isn't part of the agenda. And so what he's done, his whole cap and tax, cap and trade program that where he said that under his plan, electricity prices will necessarily skyrocket and energy prices will go up and all the rest. He couldn't get that passed by the same Congress that passed Obamacare. So what he did is right after that election, he came out and said, there's other ways to skin a cat. Mm-hmm. And so he sicked the EPA on the entire United States. Mm-hmm. And what we did there is now they're coming out with all these regulations to try to make it harder to drill, harder to make electricity, shutting down the coal industry, this, that, and the other thing. And the methane regs you mentioned are just, if he can go after natural gas, which is what he's doing, mm-hmm. That's what methane is, natural gas, mm-hmm. He can go after it for cows, Zeb. Well, and don't be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, and this is where I wanted you with your expertise to kind of give. A lot of people look at that statement in the newspapers, et cetera, and they kind of laugh and snicker. But no, I'm not laughing. I'm looking at an area here in southern Idaho that is absolutely huge for the dairy industry. We're looking at major feedlots. We're looking at major cattle operations. Just how insidious is his plan to go against methane gas and possibly shut down animal operations?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the fact. If he can go after it, if he thinks he's got the if he thinks he's supported in the law to go after it for one industry, he can go after it for any industry. And if it's as dangerous as he says, then he's got justification apparently under the law to be able to do that. And the fact is, it isn't. We're talking about something which is natural, which comes. The Earth produces a heck of a lot more methane than all the people in the world and all the animals, mm-hmm. just naturally out of the oceans, out of swamps and wetlands and all the rest of it. It's all created, but he doesn't want to count that. Just like they don't want to count natural sources of carbon dioxide, which are about 97% of the world's. And yet here we are running around giving money away at the UN, talking about how we got to change our entire future energy-wise to get at the 3% that man puts into the atmosphere without doing anything about, the Earth's sources. And I'd certainly include God put the animals here for us to use. So,
absolutely.
We're in a situation where any justification for more federal power in the hands of Washington control freaks is what it's all about. And when it comes to him, he wants to control everything. You hear him. It's all about me and I and me and I. He's got this dangerous, I think, streak of that in him. It's not the first time in history we've had people with that, but this almost narcissistic approach to him controlling everything is what drives him.
You know, you and I both have had many, many conversations about climate change, and I think it's farcical, laughable, and almost idiotic that people would subscribe to a climate change where the planet is getting, they say, so much warmer and we're burning up, when science over the last 19 years has shown that we're going into a major cooling trend. And above all that, Dan, you and I, as intelligent people, understand that if we do go into a major cooling trend or a forced cooling trend, it's going to wreak total havoc on crop production and food policies all around the globe. These people are idiots.
Yeah. No, Zeb, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think all of us believe in climate change. I mean, you know, you can't look at the history of the world and look at dinosaurs and look at all that oil that was created over many years with different, in places where there's no oceans, now there were oceans, and not know that the world has gone through all kinds of climate change. So the question is, this the first time in history we've got a bunch of people who figured out that they can grab a hold of your car and your furnace and your business and everything else by talking about something that's going to happen regardless of anything we do, because that's the way God intended for it to happen. And that's the change. The idea that somehow they believe that man is so important that they trump what God does. And that's really what this, at its core, is all about. It's like, well, maybe if we can convince people that the weather's changing because of, the weather's always changing. That's why people sit in coffee shops around the country and talk about the weather. But this is the first group in history that has ever figured out, well, gee, this is a great way to get more power in our own hands so we can tell people what to do and boss them around and pick their pockets for their money, their hard-earned money, justifying it on the fact that the weather changes.
Dan, do you see, and you and I again have talked about this in the past, but with this State of the Union message coming up, I'm really concerned what he's going to ask for and demand. Do you see the carbon card coming back onto the scene and being forced upon the American public so that they would have to have a carbon emissions card, and if they're over that, basically, they're shut down?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what he's doing with his, I mean, look at what he's doing to the coal plants in the United States. If you can't meet his standard in terms of carbon dioxide, not in terms of pollutants that hurt people, in terms of carbon dioxide, if you can't meet it, you got to shut down, which means you take a perfectly good coal plant and shut it down, you throw the people out of work, the miners can't work, the people who work at Caterpillar making the mining equipment can't work, and I guess we all go around installing windmills and solar panels, but the price of that electricity is much, much higher. You can't smelt steel on the back of solar power and windmills. That's not something that is within the realm of possibility. So basically what we're talking about here is, micromanagement of every aspect of our economy, because every aspect of our economy runs on energy, and it's literally in the dictionary, the capacity to do work. And so if they can grab a hold of the capacity to do work writ large across our economy, then they've got control. And, you know, some people live for this. Most of us want to be left alone, and we're happy to leave other people alone, too. We don't want to stick our noses into everybody else's business. But there's a certain type of person, and I think the president's one of them, and his henchmen are like it as well, who love to stick their nose and tell other people what to do. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Do it our way or no way. And and that really is what this is all about. The desire, the intense desire on a personal level to control other people's behavior.
You know, I guess I had a pie-in-the-sky attitude at the last election that if the Republicans maintained control of the House and also got control of the Senate, that we'd all be running down the yellow brick road happy on the way to Oz. But I don't see any backbone. I don't see any fighting ability. I don't see any standing up to this president with the Republicans. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, I think I think, unfortunately, you're probably right on that. Back here, if somebody talked the way I just talked, Zeb, the Washington Post would make fun of them and run articles, and the New York Times would make fun of them and they would just be deniers, and they would be, they would be people who refuse to believe science, and what's wrong with them? They're just knuckle-dragging cavemen. Let me tell you something. That's what drives these people in terms of being affected by things, and they got to stop listening to this and talk to people back home, talk to people who have dirt under their fingernails, because it comes via hard work, and maybe we'd have a lot more common sense in Washington, a lot less going along to get along.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up this way, but I'm going to ask you, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. If you were to give me 3 main topics that you think this man is going to go into with the State of the Union speech tonight, 3 main energy issues, what do you think he's going to demand and ask for that he gets as far as a climate change philosophy?
Yeah, he's going to talk about how he's got a historic agreement, which is a joke with the Chinese, which will lead to an agreement later this year in Paris in December. And also he wants to get Congress to give him $3 billion a year at least, just to start, to hand out to the UN for climate change. He's going to talk about low gas prices and how that's great, even though he's done everything in his power to stop that from happening. And it was not part of his plan. And he's probably going to talk about how we need investments in our infrastructure, which is code word in Washington for gas taxes.
I agree. Boy, you hit it right on the head, Dan, and I always look forward to having you on. Senior Vice President of Policy at the Institute of Energy Research, Dan Kish. Good friend, absolutely knows what he's talking about. God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Zeb. It's always a pleasure, and keep an eye on him.
I will, buddy. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Very enjoyable conversation with Dan Kish this morning with the Institute for Energy Research about what he thinks is going to happen tonight with Obama and the State of the Union. So we will see tonight at about 7 p.m. Oh, my goodness, we've got to get the weather on in here. Weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657, the number to call. And don't forget, Scarro's Meats, locally owned custom meat processor, serving all of southern Idaho for over 20 years. That's right, the very best of beef and pork and lamb and the processing of wild game. Oh, my. They sell taste one bite at a time, and they guarantee everything that they sell. So call them today, Scarro's Meats, 324-7657. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. For all intents and purposes, you're really looking out as far as the weather. Because if you're in eastern Idaho right now, they got a pretty good-sized mess going all over the place. But that's eastern Idaho. Partly sunny today, mostly sunny tomorrow. The reason why is you're finishing up the system. And it's just not going to be clear, but it's not going to be snowing, and it's not going to be raining. You have no weather action today. Winds are not going to be bad. They're going to be about 5 miles an hour. A little cool. The daytime highs will still be in the low 30s, and that's going to stay like that all week long. Overnight lows will be in the low 20s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Tell me whether you got it.
Thank you very much, Michael. We appreciate it. And, of course, the weather brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats, Don Scarrow, and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. They are selling taste one bite at a time. Whew, I got time for a couple of phone calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And we'll talk about any subject you want to talk about for the remaining portion of this program this morning. So give me a jingle if you would, please. Have you got anything of merit that you want to bring up this morning, Gina? You have the floor, my dear.
Really nothing of merit, no, except for go Seahawks.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, congratulations to Randy Wynn and to Dave Zanino and to all the other people that I owe my company soul to.
For all the bets that you made. Did you notice you and I did not make a bet?
I noticed that. And we really should have, because you would have clipped my wings. Boy, I'll tell you.
I figure it this way. We've bet so many times that you and I both owe each other quite a few steak dinners.
You know, the problem I see with that whole game with the Packers and the Seahawks is that they needed to just slow down for a minute, call a timeout, and think. Think, because they were in a complete change of momentum. The Seahawks had the momentum. The Seahawks, everything going for them, and honestly, I think McCarthy and the Packers should have just called that timeout and said, wait a minute, cooler heads have got to prevail here. And this whole thing come unraveling like a cheap suit. In 3 minutes, they destroyed everything they'd worked for all game.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, and like I have been telling people, Seattle's lucky that they even won that game.
Oh, my goodness,
You know,
yes.
They are so lucky that they even won, but they did. And so now that they're going to the Super Bowl along with the Patriots, and so this is You Mad Bro Part 2.
And I'm not taking anything away from the Patriots. I don't want to ever act like sour grapes, because I think Russell Wilson and many other players, Lynch and everybody else on that team, exceptionally talented football players. But let's face it, in a hostile environment, and Seattle's field is hostile with the noise factor, the 12th man factor. It's supposedly the loudest stadium anywhere in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers had them, and they let them up and let them beat them.
Yeah, they did. And which, by the way, I was just reading a little article when Sherman had gotten that interception, created a small earthquake right there at CenturyLink Field because of all of the people in the stands.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Crazy.
I'm going to ask you a favor. I'm going to do a Les Schwab commercial, and then I'm going to turn it over to you with kind of a musical interlude to wrap it up, and I'll talk to you later.
You got it. You have a great day.
All right, God bless. Thanks, Gina. Excellent job. Don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, all 7 locations serving you, and you know they've got all the tires that you need. You know they've got all the winter traction products, whether it's the chains or whether it's a new battery. You know they've got all your winter wheels. You know that they've got the best in brake service, absolutely, with professionally trained technicians. You know they've got the best in front-end alignments. Oh, my goodness. You know all of that. So, stop in and see the best that can help you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best serving you, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget, I got to get this reminder in. Please do not forget that Thursday is Lunch Bunch Day at Denny's Restaurant in Burley. We're going to be over there at 11:30 at Denny's Restaurant, and we also want to say thank you to Walmart, Smith's Food King, and Hanson Mortuary for the gift certificate cards that we're going to be giving away. So don't miss it. Put it on your calendar for this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant. It will be Lunch Bunch, so put that on your calendar, and everybody be there. We're going to have a little musical interlude going on to the program this morning, and I wish you and yours a very good day, the way things were, the way things ought to be. Zeb at the Ranch, God bless. Have a good one, everybody.